Order, Griggs County Commission, 2:36. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. John? Here. Dale? Here. Mark is not here. Sean? Here. Troy's here. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Been moved by Dale to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion?
Second.
Is there a second? Seconded by Sean. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Did you all have a chance to look at the meeting minutes from the 23rd of August? This doesn't match. What's in here?
The telephone company?
On the bottom of
Um,
page 2 where the variance was granted, I wasn't sure why, but that was the petition for the variance.
What page are you on? Bottom of 2. To the petitioners on the drain?
TBO for petitioners, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for
Petitioners.
Petitioners, yeah, not partition. We didn't block them off. We
okay. Perfect.
PE. Petitioners.
We didn't have all the telephone bills, so then this one should be getting added.
But this doesn't match this. These other 3 lines. This one's on there, this one's on there, this one's not in here, and this one's different.
That's because we got the tax directors. So then the general would have been different. So this one is the right one. This one comes out.
This 395 is in there? Is in here?
Yep. No. 911 would need to be added too.
Right.
Yep.
So this kind of all messed up.
Yeah. We only got half the telephone bills, and then she had to go down, and then we got the rest of them today.
So this check's not gonna get written.
No. Okay, remind me what this, what we decided with this telephone company. Okay.
Move to approve the minutes as amended and dispense with the reading.
Been moved by Sean to approve the minutes, the meeting minutes as amended and dispense with the reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dale. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion?
Okay, so this one
Seeing
that
none,
you
we'll see
did,
the vote. All in favor, say
it's
aye.
$1,106.96. That's the right amount.
Now we're moving on to the bills here, but I had a question on the bill.
Okay, that's with that 911 included? Okay, gotcha. Okay, understand. Thank you. Bye. Okay, so know that one that, okay, the 911, or the telephone company one that's in your packet, that's not the right one. We didn't get all the bills until this morning.
What page is that on?
Page 5. I came here early and I was looking at the bills, and there was some vouchers that got added today, and this phone bill thing doesn't match.
It was a mess. So then 911 is going to be $395.95. And
So
then,
this voucher here, this check is gonna be $395.95.
nope, that one's going to be, I can't do that in my head. 0626 plus 390.95. So the telephone company bill is going to be $1,502.21. It's going to be these two added together.
So this check, we can cross this one.
Correct. Yep. That
That's
one's
not gonna happen.
correct.
So the added voucher is the rest of the phone bill in addition to this 911.
Correct. Yep. And then we do have a few other add-ons. We have a Arrowwood for $4,978.01. And we have two to Lumber Mart. One is going to be $23.76 and one is $75.98.
What's the Arrowwood one?
Arrowwood is for diesel fuel and oil.
Road?
Yeah.
Isn't the whole courthouse on the same telephone system?
We're on one system, but we each have our own numbers. So then each department has their own bill for some reason. I don't know why. It's how it's been since I've started.
Doesn't make any sense. No, it doesn't.
Would you like me to call them and see if we can get on one?
Well, I'm just thinking of the bank, Nodak Electric, the bank in Tillamook. Got 40 people in the building at Nodak, and it's one phone bill.
If you call there, is it just one number to call in? So then we would have like different extensions and
Well, I
we've-
mean, no, we have more than one number.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Make it easier because, I mean, we get,
I don't know why it just doesn't come into our switch, and then we have an extension for each one of the departments.
Mm-hmm.
You asked Travis and the telephone companies.
okay, you got it.
I don't know what. Any other questions on the bills?
Move to approve the bills as presented with addition to Arrowwood for $49.79, $78.01, and Lumber Mart 2 for $23.76 and $75.98.
And
But-
correcting that telephone company.
Well, that was as presented.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Been moved by Sean to approve the bills along with the additions to the vouchers. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Dale. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. John?
Aye.
Dale?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Troy votes aye. Motion carried. Office reports. That one?
Move to approve the monthly office reports as presented.
Been moved by Dale to approve the monthly office reports as presented. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Sean. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I just texted Kelly, so she should be in here in just a moment.
Oh,
Sorry, I forgot I was on the agenda.
did you eventually get that letter?
I did, yes. I think, did you drop it off? Yeah, I got it.
Well, I mean, did you get the original?
No, I don't know who has the original. I think doesn't the state have the original?
No, I mean, they wrote it to us, right? I figured that was just a courtesy copy, that one.
Yeah, I
got.
think it was. I don't know who has the original on that.
Oh.
I would think the state would keep that, but I could be wrong. So. Grant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There isn't anything on my radar right now that I can think of that we need. I don't think there's anything.
The application period is open as well, right?
Yeah, and we have, let's see, what is the budget? Did we put anything in for that? Okay, yeah.
Nope.
And when is the budget finalized?
October 4th is the
Is the hearing.
hearing.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't think of anything.
Yeah, we're done with the budget.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything, so I think that's why I left the budget blank, but
I don't think we can increase them now.
No,
Yeah.
just decrease.
yeah, I don't remember what we had in there for last year. It was just a couple, but
I don't remember, Kelly.
yeah, I think it was like 5,000 or something like that. But yeah, no, I just wanted to touch base, just so you know that there wasn't anything that was on my radar. I think we just had a small few things, otherwise everything else is fairly new and updated. And we did, I think one of the things I was gonna apply for was the ITV. But we actually got that system free through the state and they just installed that in May. So got that and it's working great. It's awesome.
So you don't have to transport prisoners back here for
Um,
hearings and stuff?
It depends on the type of case that it is.
Sure.
And the situation, for like felonies or.
But it could save the sheriff's department a lot of time.
It could, yep. There are times when it will definitely be beneficial for them and save them some transport time and money, so. But I think with that, I don't think there's anything else that we needed, so just wanted
Okay,
to just touch base with that.
sounds good.
That's it.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wayne?
A couple letters in your packet. And one from the revoking estate. One is to do with the new regulation of scour analysis requirements. Bridges built 1990 and after. And we have one bridge that report is required of, and that is, we always called it the White Bridge. It's 3 east and 4 south of Cooperstown. South of Lundy's and southeast. And I don't know if PLJ has any, or who was the engineering on that bridge, I guess, but we'll be checking into that and trying to find the report. Did you have anything on that, Paul?
Sorry about that. Thought I turned my noise off too. It was built right in 1990, so we would just have paper copies if you do still have anything on it. I haven't thrown anything away, so the private concept reports for those that if we did it would be in Valley City, so.
What is it?
That. If we can find it.
What's a scour analysis?
Basically to figure out how much erosion could happen underneath the structure, whether it would undermine the piling that holds the bridge up,
Well,
or whether it could. I guess with the water we've had, I guess it's stood the test of time so far.
Every year once every 4 years, we're required to do a scour report on the bridges. And there's certain places where you take measurements to see if the bed is moving around or what's happening to it. And here's a little tech brief. I don't know how many pages it is that you gotta go through and kind of go by the.
Just submit the last one again.
You can have that. I made 2 copies. Hydraulic considerations for shallow button foundations.
And normally we're file supported, so.
I did look back in my file and I found some from way back scour analysis.
Okay.
So I didn't completely looking through them, but it might be that I would have a copy of it maybe too. But something we have to get into them by March 31st, 2020. So the other is the letter to the Board of County Commissioners about the 2020 to 2024 county federal aid program sheet. And so, see, I think our meeting was October 7th, is it? Thought I copied that. Yeah, federal aid meeting is on the October 7th at 1:30 p.m. in Bismarck. So at that time, we'll have to have a program sheet, you know, to put project in the future, what projects we may do, and estimated bid date. So I kind of look back in some different projects, and, you know, we're sitting pretty good on it. We've done overlays, and then we've done chip seals to try to keep the roads up. And this funding is only for paved roads. And then, of course, it's the federal bridge program. And that's, we have the one bridge, 1 mile east and 8 north. Cooperstone, Becker Bridge.
It's 10 miles north, but
Yeah, actuality it is. So, you know, I think the Hanford Road is pretty good. This west of Binford is in good shape. Don't have the dates of the last time we did that. And Canetta Road is pretty good shape. But just we get some project locations in there, and I think, yeah, when we, I don't know if the funds that it shows on the top of this page are in actuality there, or will be. Paul did email Brian Fuchs from the North Dakota DOT and asked if that fund total that showed on the top of the page there, an estimate total, was before the project was paid for, the chip seal from, that's by Sutton, that we did this year.
Yep, and they said that they take the federal funds out of your total when you submit the estimate, or when you submit the plans and estimate to DOT, so that came in under the estimate too, so we might actually have a little bit more than what it shows on the sheet there. I don't have those figures with me, but it'd be at least what they have there, plus a few thousand.
Estimated total for 2020 is $239,825. We won't have any project set up for next year. It would probably be 21 or 22, I would think.
I'm looking at the road network, and I guess I handed out that sheet of the completed projects with House Bill 1358, Senate Bill 2103, and House Bill 1176. You guys have pretty much touched everything with those, and then there was a chip seal on the road, the paved part of Hanford Road, 19 and 22, the east 6 miles in 2016. I think it was bid in 15. I think that was the one that carried over because the contractor did too much work. So really the only ones that haven't been touched recently, this would be the road out to Red Willow and then the road west of Binford. They drove the road out to Red Willow, before the meeting here, and it's really narrow. I don't know if you'd be able to do any more pavement improvement on that without doing some work on the end slopes. The graded width is only 22 to up to 25 and a half. I had to check a few spots. And the striping was only at 21 foot outside and outside, and the widest I found was 21 and a half, so it's really narrow. And you're down to about 10 and a half foot in there. And there's some areas that need some repair on the end slopes too, in the slough areas especially. So if you guys have any other potential projects in mind for that roughly 240,000? Or if you want to hold off until the following year when you have another 150 or so to work with.
Well, if we don't have a defined purpose for it, we may as well wait till there is, or her dealing.
No, I would suggest waiting till 2021.
Okay,
And then if hopefully the prairie dog money will be in, and we'll look at that from that.
Right.
Although there is some, I mean, the Red Willow Road, there are sections of that that are, the press cracks are getting pretty bad, and, you know, the shoulder spots are,
There's no fixing that though. Each freeze-thaw cycle, it's sitting in water, and there's no way to get rid of the water. You could spend millions of dollars on it, and the next spring it would be all cracked out.
those, depressed cracks, they've got some pretty effective, you know, just maintenance treatments. I guess the, what was it, Craft Roll, that gap method 202. We used that a bunch at Spirit Lake, and that held over the 2 winters now, and it's performing really well.
Unless you had a way to stop water from freezing, you're not gonna fix it.
Yeah, but just to,
The culverts are full year round. When
Oh,
it freezes,
I'm
it
just-
just pushes it up and pushes
Oh.
it down.
yeah, no, that stuff. Yeah, you're right. This just fixes the small cracks that are dipped down.
Oh, I drive it twice a day year round. I know that there's no,
Yeah,
it goes back, it goes back to where it is now, and it gets way worse, but
yeah,
Wayne's tried to fix it through his whole career, and so has every road boss before him. And
Yep.
there's, you throw in good money after bad.
okay.
Update on the Hanford Road, I guess, project that's, I think all that's left is to fix the spots through Hanford that kind of got pushed out, the pavement.
Mhm.
And he's waiting for material. He didn't have the right pavement material in Jamestown, I think.
Yeah.
It's maybe coarser stuff they had, but otherwise I drove it the other day, it was pretty good. There was a couple spots that were, had a little dip in them. And, but otherwise it was not as good as the Mac Road, but almost. It was almost like pavement.
Gary Heyerdahl was out at our house for supper last night. He said it really looks nice.
Yeah, there's hardly any dust. It was all bound together. It was good.
Great. A little bit of rain affected.
Yep.
Soup it up.
So,
Is Jamie got back to us on the right of way on I have a box
I
culvert?
haven't heard any more about that.
No, me neither. I knew he was sending the revised documents or the final ones, but I hadn't heard if you received them back yet.
And now that we had got the paperwork done for the Binford project, I called Wayne Anderson Construction to see about getting the building built. And of course, now he says he's booked up till winter, but then I called Cash and Carry, talked to Dave, and he's gonna talk to Wayne, and if he can't do it, then he might look to find somebody else that would fill that. position to put the building up. We did say that he would could probably do the foundation or the footing, and then he could come back and put the building up later, but we need a place for the maintainers to too, and when it gets through winter, so. But- So he's working on that. I said I had a meeting today, this afternoon, but we'll find out everything today. So. We are progressing there anyway.
Okay.
We plan on skimming back the sod and then hauling in some gravel, because we're up in the pit by Binford now. So probably next week, when we get done graveling up there, we do that, build it up. That's all I have, I believe.
Okay.
Did the invoice number 2 for Hannaford Road make it on the bills?
Yes.
I think there's gonna be a couple more on that. I think when he had a few loads of water that got hauled while he was tolerancing the surface of the gravel, so there'll be a little bit more quantity to pay for in addition to the patching. And he thought he might get to the patching next week. I talked to him before the meeting here. So,
Sounds good.
but I won't be here for the next meeting. I'll be out at a conference in Montana.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's good.
Mailboxes.
Did you talk to anybody? No, I don't think that they got back to Mark either.
Oh. Time clocks? No marquee, no time clocks?
No, we're giving a new meaning to kicking the can down the road, I'll tell you that.
Huh?
I said we're giving new meaning to kicking the can down the road, I'll tell
Right.
you that.
We're waiting to find out if this stuff intermeshes with the code programs.
So we got that answered back in March. And that's then when we started putting the hours into the payroll system like you guys had wanted. It didn't sound like it would make, that this system would make payroll any easier. It would just be basically replacing our timesheets is all.
But that was kind of Mark too, was on the time clock.
So we're tabling the mailboxes and time clocks, correct? Okay.
Nobody made a motion. Extension? Do you know anything?
Yes, actually, I talked to Kim. Kind of expressed our wishes that we'd like to pursue a 40% extension agent yet, so she's gonna try that avenue. Said the fair went good with Hoffman. She was trying to see if she would continue, but it didn't sound like that was probably gonna happen. Just too many miles. And,
The parents.
It's from here to Wheatland.
yeah,
The parents I talked
fighting
to,
like
like,
parents between premiums, how they should be paid. I don't know if she liked that.
oh, is that right?
I guess there was some conflict, but so.
That's
I
why
think
I look-
Kim said there's somebody's gonna fill in for her, and she's been in New York. Her mother's ill, so she must have took some leave of absence. So
Oh.
she was just cleaning some loose ends up, and then somebody's gonna be temporarily filling her position for a while. So that's where we're at on that.
Okay. This asset foreclosure fund.
Jamie wants to be here for that.
He's on his way. He got held up in Lakota, but is on his way right now.
Gunpoint, knife point, or just?
I don't know.
Oh.
Did he forfeit anything?
He was on his way a half hour ago.
Yeah.
Takes to get here.
Clear the way.
I called Sam to have her put tax director on the agenda, and she'd already gotten it done, so good work, Sam. We just need to advertise
Yep,
for that position, so. Do we need a motion to that effect?
Do you want me to put it in like I did the last time?
Yeah, just generic. So
Can find the last ad.
Barnes, Foster, Griggs, Steele.
Is that what you want me to do?
maybe there's somebody local who's starting to.
Try it local first.
Okay. Griggs County is taking applications for a tax equalization director. The position will be funded based on experience, accounting, and real estate background preferred. Job description is as stated in North Dakota Century Code 1110.1. Applications will be accepted until what date?
2022.
Until filled.
Until filled. You got it.
Well,
Do you have to have it closed?
pretty much gotta have a date on there to, so we can review the candidates.
Could be an ongoing review.
Every time I get an application, I just bring it to you.
Okay,
Did you want to do that? The precision start date will be determined. You may pick up an application in my office, and then the equal opportunity employer. I was just thinking of a question. I don't remember what I was going to say. Oh, how many weeks do you want it to run? Sorry.
3? Gotta go at least 3.
3 weeks. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna combine it with the weed officer and put them together.
Wanna do that?
Yeah, I'd save money that way.
Okay.
Oh shoot, I skipped the audit. We've kind of looked at, I mean, we've already looked at this audit a few times. You did those transfers and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nothing else has changed?
Nope. Nope. I looked it over for you guys. It should be good.
This transfer out on social services, is that just what went to the general fund?
No,
It went to the board, social, to the new social services.
it went to Nelson County.
This 36,000?
What page?
28.
You're 28, okay.
I thought the whole remaining balance was
If there was anything over 100,000, it went into the general fund.
That 33,000 into the general fund?
36.
Mhm.
36, right? That's 36,898. That's what went to the general fund, right?
Oh, that's right, that $100,000 deal.
And then the
Mhm.
balance of the 114, then that went with social services with Nelson County, right?
No, only 100.
Only 100 would go, so then we would,
So then there should have been another 14,000 that went to the general fund, right?
No, there should have been only 14,000 into the general fund under those conditions.
Oh, I guess, well, there was a transfer out. at
no,
one
we
time.
started the year 2000, or ended the year 2017 with 136,
Okay.
Yeah,
898. So then that went into the general fund. And so then there should be that 14,171 that should be,
oh, that would be reflected in 19 though, not.
correct,
Yeah,
correct,
okay.
yep.
That's gonna change some too. Now they're talking that if one zone is short of money, they can take from another one. So pretty soon it's not gonna matter what we carry in our.
If a zone is short, they can take from another zone?
Yeah. Found that out this morning.
How would that happen?
State. More of the rules and policies. So if say the Grand Forks or Grafton or something, say they need 100,000 and we got 200,000 extra, they can.
It's all one big happy commune.
It doesn't matter because it's all state money anyway.
Yeah, well,
But
we
it-
still got our carry.
But it isn't. There's still those carries.
Absolutely.
And then there's still counties or zones that are putting in individual money from the counties.
Oh, there's some counties probably are levying, yeah.
Right.
I mean, if we get through a few years here, we'll probably use our carry, but.
Would it be that we would send it to the state and then the state would send it to, or
sounds
would
like
it be
you'd
from
just
one?
write a check from one zone to the next.
Oh, wow.
Because
It's-
they all got their own.
It's no different than transferring money within the county budget from one department to the next.
Now that it's just under the state's umbrella.
Yeah.
I think the only caveat of it is it can only be used for direct expenses,
Yeah.
not indirect expenses, so.
Yeah, it's all one big slush fund,
Mhm.
no.
Where were
But
you
that's
at?
all the more reason.
Social service meeting this morning?
Oh, the one I missed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember it.
But that's all the more reason to stay out of it. If they call the county to keep this thing separate. If they wanna run it, they wanna be in charge of the rules, then they'll have to be, and the money, then they'll have to be supply all the money also.
Right.
They already got the counties to kick in, if they had a balance, they already got them to put in $100,000 towards the effort.
Sounds like they've already outspent their pace too, so.
Is our zone?
State,
Oh,
and their fiscal year starts July 1st and they're already sounding like they're in trouble, so. Now, I suppose a lot of it's payroll, cause now they're, a lot of the employees are gonna become state employees. They didn't plan for the salaries and benefits and.
No, why would they miss, how would you be expected to figure that out?
It's
Um,
gonna be interesting.
are there any, you went to Macville?
Yeah.
Anything else on the audit?
I don't see anything. It looks like Harold adjudicated our position and took responsibility if there's a problem, so that's what an auditor is supposed to do.
That was the only question I had.
He has a different format every year, though. This usually has a summary in there, you know, that's labeled summary, and now that's not there, but now he's got one, an opinion. But
We need an approval of that?
I suppose.
I'll move we approve the 2018 audit.
Been moved by Sean that we approve the 2018 audit. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Dale. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So you heard back from NDSU.
I did.
It's actually a little more reasonable than I actually thought it was gonna be for somebody to do that.
Mm-hmm.
so, do we accept that, or do we send this proposal to the state to have them rubber stamp it before we go ahead and spend the money? To avoid the merry-go-round treatment. You do this. And then you do this, and you do this, and you do this, and then it's.
Oh, I hear ya.
Trouble with that is we might not hear from the state till.
Well, but if the letter is phrased correctly, we're going down their road. Now,
Right.
here, we've complied with, got somebody lined up. Will this satisfy your requirements? Will you take these into consideration, or no? Will these satisfy the requirements as we move forward to demolish the courthouse? And now then that's a yes or no answer. It can't be maybe.
Right. Have Jamie draft a letter.
Because remember, they've stated flat out that this is never gonna get done. And we have that in writing, and then backpedaling after that.
And then it was unless. Well, here's the unless.
Right,
Is
so
it
what are,
satisfactory to meet
Right,
those
so-
requirements?
right, what are your requirements to get this done? That's the only way it can be. We can't be doing things and then submitting them and let them say no. We have to say, okay, what do you require, and then we do it.
And then be out $5,000 for nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, we should probably do that.
And frame it that way so it's,
Mhm.
well, maybe, no. Yes or
You and
no.
Samantha want to write a letter?
Well, if I write it, then it's gotta come before the board again for approval. If Jamie writes it, we can approve it now,
Oh, okay.
right?
Mhm.
It's my opinion, or your opinion, or Troy's, Sean's opinion, Dale's opinion. Or Samantha could write it without.
I'd rather have Jamie.
I think that's
Okay,
a good
that's
idea,
fine.
too.
Okay, so we don't need to
Whatever
take action on that
state's
yet.
attorney's, heading it.
You've been emailing back and forth?
I didn't say anything after this.
Right.
Yep.
They just asked us what is our timeline. We really aren't we don't have one.
Okay.
I mean, this isn't a panic deal. You can tell them that if you want to, and then tell them that we're going to seek some guidance from the state on,
When you tell them we're moving forward as per instruction of the State Historical Society.
I sent him that letter.
Okay.
Yep, I've sent him all those letters from them.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Maybe Jamie should draft another one, that way we haven't heard from him in the last 30 days.
Is
Please
this,
advise.
yeah.
Jamie's here.
anything else under old courthouse, new courthouse? Okay.
Jamie,
Howdy.
you didn't break your speed limits getting here, did you?
No,
Like Dale asked Corvette or pickup.
all I know is the Corvette handles the curves over by Ethan's a lot better than the pickup.
Yep. So that answered that question.
Self-incrimination.
I didn't, it handles it better at 55.
You can one-hand it around there.
Well, you weren't in here in time, so you got a project.
That's fine.
We got approval from we got notification from NDSU that they would come and do
Oh yeah, I saw that for like
the $5,000.
Yep.
We agreed that we should probably ask the State Historical Society whether or not moving forward this is within their guidelines and
Okay.
will they authorize, will this move us closer to being able to
Raise the courthouse.
raise the courthouse?
Okay.
We don't want to go through something that's not going to spend $5,000 and not get us anywhere.
Okay.
Draft it in a way where they have to respond either yes or no.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
maybe,
not
or
maybe,
we'll
or
see.
let-
or
Yeah,
we'll
I think I'm just gonna ask a question, and we'll even see the document the old courthouse.
Being you're the state's attorney, could you rephrase it with under the the penalty of perjury?
They would not be under oath, so unfortunately.
We'll just have to be liar, liar, counselor.
Just will use an NDSU to document the old courthouse be sufficient to satisfy the requirements of the historical society.
Took the rain out of the forecast for tomorrow.
Out the cold though.
No.
I think they moved it all to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Yeah,
Friday next
Friday.
week.
Well, that should mean guys can combine their $1.50 wheat then tomorrow.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I've heard some big discounts.
Is it Sprouts?
No.
Sprouted falling numbers and protein discounts. Some people get all three of them.
For a $2.60 discount, it's like $4 wheat.
Buy some eggs.
Sufficient.
So I'll turn the auger on when you're coming and just get rid of the shit.
Keep the grain elevator open.
And the geese following you around.
Yeah, and then charge the hunters for hunting instead. Track where you can dig them pits.
We're pretty much through the agenda, except for that asset foreclosure funding.
So, the legislator this legislative session, Rick Becker, brought some bills to the legislator about asset forfeiture. The biggest issue is, of course, policing for profit, and we don't see that here. In Nelson County and Griggs County, in the 6 years that I've been state's attorney, we've forfeited, I would say, probably around 30 guns for people hunting on posted land. The majority of those have been up in Nelson County. I think
just thinking about it today, I think 4 of them happened in Griggs County over the last 6 years, but last year we forfeited 10 guns, and that was part of the criminal judgment, but those go to Game and Fish. But this specifically, this portion of it specifically talks, it's more specific toward proceeds of drug trade. So what the legislator did, the biggest thing is policing for profit, because this money would go right back into the coffers of law enforcement. If law enforcement made $100,000 drug bust on Highway 200, that $100,000 would go to law enforcement, or some places the state's attorney's office and law enforcement have an agreement where a state's attorney's office gets some. There is no such agreement in at least these 2 counties, but anyway, that goes back. It used to go back in the coffers. Now the statutory requirement is that either the county create an account, a separate account itself, and kind of have a governance over it. And the case here is where other counties, the example that I've given is the other counties have set up kind of a governing board where that it would in essence be a kind of a grant system within the county to law enforcement within the jurisdiction. That account would be a county account. Now, if there's civil asset forfeiture and we don't have that account set up, that money goes back to the AG's office, or we can set up an agreement with the AG's office for distribution. But that doesn't mean that we're guaranteed to get all the money back put in the county. Now, I know John has a problem with civil asset forfeiture, and that is what it is, I think. After we talked today, I thought about it some more. That is what it is, but that's the law that we have right now. So I think the issue that we have at hand is to figure out how to distribute that money, if we want to go to the state or if we want to keep it in the county, because civil asset forfeiture is here right now.
Well, it is, but it's under, the Supreme Court ruling as of February 20th has changed the whole ground rules of that.
Right. It has.
So
But
now civil asset forfeiture can only, you could only be bound to forfeit what the actual criminal penalty would have been. So it can't be in excess of the criminal penalty, right? So your scenario that you laid out to me would no longer work. You laid out the scenario where someone gets coming through Griggs County with $250,000, and we could be entitled to that rather than having the AG's office entitled to it.
Right.
Not anymore. So the Supreme Court has ruled that whatever the fine for that offense they committed, whatever the penalty would have been, is the most that the civil forfeiture could be.
What is that case? I don't think that was exactly.
I sent it to you. Yeah, it was. Sent it to you. It's so this one was Tyson Timms, and what happened was he was stopped in a Land Rover, and for a small drug crime, he went to court, and they charged him $1,200 for the crime. That was a criminal penalty, but they took his $42,500 Range Rover from him as a civil forfeiture. The Supreme Court ruled that you can only, well, I'll read it to you here. Okay, even in cases where found guilty and the value of the property may far exceed the maximum fine they would face, the value of the property seized must only be to the amount of the fine that could have been imposed. And that's aggregate. So if the maximum criminal penalty was imposed, there couldn't be any civil forfeiture because that was the maximum fine. What's really amazing about this is this was a 9-0 decision by the Supreme Court. All the conservative judges in this case sided with the liberal judges, and I don't really agree with or quote many of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's judgments, but she wrote a fine letter here.
Actually, that's not quite correct. It says the United States Supreme Court has ruled that the Constitution restricts the power of states and localities to permanently seize property without pressing criminal charges.
No, that's a different one. This one was under the excessive fines, under the 8th Amendment. There's also one that went through under the 14th Amendment, which was.
No, John, that's in the
Sorry,
same.
sir.
That's in the same article where you writing
Yeah.
about Tim's. It states right 2 paragraphs before that. It said the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled, and then it goes further into explaining it. But it's without pressing criminal charges.
No, either way. The Tim's case, they did press criminal charges. He was fined, it was criminal, and they imposed a civil penalty. After pleading guilty to a drug offense in Indiana, he was fined $1,200 and sentenced to a year of home detention. But there was another cost to Tim's. When he was arrested, police used a process called civil asset forfeiture to seize and forfeit or permanently keep his SUV, a Land Rover, for which he had paid $42,000 with money inherited from a life insurance policy upon his father's death. In effect, this amounted to an additional fine that was 4 times larger than the $10,000 maximum fine for his crime. So anyway, what it does, and I read the decision even. So what it does now is we couldn't benefit from that your hypothetical $250,000 unless they committed a crime that would have imposed a maximum penalty of $250,000. Now the Supreme Court ruling has opened every one of these civil forfeitures up to litigation. So why would we have put something in place that we're going to have to defend? Why not let the state defend it and give us our 80%, which is the customary payoff, 80-20? We don't have the cost of defense. We don't have the cost. We don't have all the costs of trying to fight this because it's going to get fought. The Supreme Court is. And there's also cases coming up to deal with the 6th, the 5th, and the 14th Amendment.
Well, I think until that time gets there, first of all, we have to seize something at an amount. And like I said, in the last 6 years, we've seized $500 in cash. So
Why did you seize $500 cash?
in that instance, they were caught in Lakota. They had been dealing drugs in Devil's Lake and were caught in Lakota going to Grand Forks to purchase more drugs to sell back in Lakota and Devil's Lake.
Allegedly.
No, they pled guilty to that one.
So if they pled guilty, then there was no need for a civil. There was no need for a civil forfeiture because there could have been a criminal forfeiture then.
In the plea agreement, they wouldn't give up that money. They pled guilty to it, but they wouldn't give up that money.
Well, it's the state's responsibility to prove them guilty and take the money then.
Well, they pled guilty, and they didn't contest it. In that case, they didn't contest the forfeiture.
Well, no, because
There was probably a fine imposed.
There was a $250. There was $250 in court costs and $250 fine, and the maximum fine for that is
There's your $500. So it wasn't an asset. It wasn't really a forfeiture.
It was because we got another $500 in addition to those fines that were imposed. We took an extra $500. That $500 if they went and used to buy the drugs. And there have been other cases where a person's been arrested for possession.
But I don't agree with doing that.
I don't either.
So someone came through with a pile of money and it's shown that they were going to purchase drugs or that money was used in the trade of drugs. You wouldn't agree in taking that money?
If that's the case,
Not without due process.
Not without due process.
They do have due process, though. They have the right to have a hearing on it.
No, that's not what the Supreme Court ruled here.
And I don't know. We don't know what the process is in Ohio. I don't know what their civil asset forfeiture. We have to file a civil case against a person in order to receive those assets. We can't just say that no, we're going to keep that money. there's an actual case that we have to file. It's a civil case. They have the right to have a hearing in front of a judge.
Jamie, you understand that the difference in burden of proof between civil and criminal.
I do. It's
Okay,
part-
the criminal is beyond a reasonable doubt. Civil is preponderance of
Right,
evidence.
I understand
There's
that,
a
Tom.
there's a huge difference there. Our Constitution requires that we are innocent until proven guilty. It does not rely on the preponderance of evidence. And all this is an end run around our civil rights.
I don't agree with that, John.
Well, the Supreme Court agrees with me. That's not very often.
I don't agree with that because in their criminal case, they had due process in the criminal case and they had due process in the civil asset case. For the case in Nelson County, they pled guilty. They had the right to fight that.
But they didn't have the means to fight it. That's what this was all
They had
about.
an attorney.
It's an additional cost. It's additional fine over and above what the law says. Up until a few years ago, public entities did not use the civil structure of our court system. That was for private citizens to use the civil structure of our court system. The entities that had the ability to use the criminal portion. The civil portion is for private, but this is an end run around our law, rule of law. Now that's my opinion, and you're not going to change it. And again, this whole civil forfeiture thing is going to go down the tubes. It's going to take a little while. But this is cut the meat out of it. There's no way to take huge profits out of it now, because everybody's going to have to come back and say, well, the fine could only have been $10,000. You're only entitled to $10,000. So now there's not going to be the big pot of gold sitting out there. So because there's no pot of gold sitting out there, it won't happen. It'll slowly just decay away.
I disagree with
Let's
that.
hope so.
Let's hope so. But we won't lose out on that, on your mythical $250,000. It could still, the Attorney General could still seize it, and under the guidelines, the federal to state and the state to counties, we would get 80% of it, and we wouldn't have any of the costs of fighting the court costs or anything. They would all be in the state, and we would get 80% of the dollars. So it's not going to impede it in that measure. It's going to reduce our liability in this thing because of what the Supreme Court has said. And
I
of
don't
course,
think that's right either, because they're gonna bring the suit against Griggs. If they're gonna sue to get that money back, they're gonna bring the suit against the county, because the county is the original party that took that money.
No, we wouldn't take it. We wouldn't take it because we wouldn't have anything in place to take it.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's the county, the state's attorney's office where the crime originated in the county, and in that jurisdiction, they're the ones that take that money. The state wouldn't take that money.
Okay, but we have rules in place that says how much money it costs if you do this crime. Here's the penalty. Why do we get to?
So it's not.
That?
The problem is these asset foreclosure are, they can be abused. And they have been
Absolutely,
abused.
they can be abused, but that's why.
And so we shouldn't do it.
Well,
You can't be the judge, jury, and the executioner.
we're
That's-
not in these cases.
They have been in these other cases.
But they're not in the state of North Dakota. There's a process to go through it, and it's governed by code and requires a hearing in front of a judge. We don't just get to say this money is ours.
No, but the whole premise of the asset surrender or foreclosure, whatever you want to call it, is they agree to give you the asset. They could agree to give you the asset to foreclude any further punishments. And the Supreme Court Thomas even said it in his dissent to this, although he was unanimous, he wrote a dissent anyway. He said this is discriminatory towards the small individual, because a small individual can't afford either to hire an attorney or to lose that money. He said the big drug smugglers, they fully intend to give $2-3 million in this asset forfeiture and go back where they came from and get another load. They can afford it. The little people can't. So it gets.
But that's exactly the problem. Is that so the risk versus reward in these situations? If they're not risking that money, the maximum fine is $25,000. Well, they're gonna give up that $25,000 if they can keep on taking a couple million home. I mean, if that's,
Then we better create a law that says the fine is $250,000. We don't use the court in order to sidestep the rule of law. If the people want that in place, then they better talk to their legislatures and have them do that. That's how our system works. We don't sidestep that. We have rights here. Everybody has right. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty, not the other way around. And if we don't use it anyway, what's the purpose? So why are we arguing about this?
well, we've used it, but we've never had an instance in Griggs County other than a gun forfeiture that it's happened.
Right, but we're not giving that up. If your mythical $250,000 gets seized out here, we're gonna get 80% of it.
But why not keep 100% of it for the citizens?
The,
Because we don't want to be in the Supreme Court. Because we're
It
not,
costs you something.
we're not
to
going to
get
win.
it costs you something, now because of the Supreme Court case, that $250,000 is that's gonna be contested, and they're gonna win. And we're gonna have to fight it, because that's over and above what the fine would have been for the offense. Unless there was some other factors related to it, of course. But that's what the ruling was.
I don't think that ruling applies in our, I don't think it applies to our process and it works, and I don't know how Ohio's process specifically.
Indiana.
Yeah,
Or
Indiana.
Indiana's.
Our century code spells out, it names the Supreme Court ruling, and it says specifically that it has to abide with the excesses specified by the Supreme Court. So in other words, we can't go over and above what the fine would have been if it would, in a criminal case.
Okay, so take a $250,000 case out of it, you get $1,500.
Mhm.
Why do we want to give that extra 20% to the state and not set it up so Griggs County can have it?
I don't want to infringe on the principles of our democracy.
If somebody pays their fine, why don't you give the rest of it back to them? It's their money.
But that money was earned breaking the law,
How do you know?
because they pled guilty to breaking the law.
I know, but don't you believe in paying your debt to society? So the law said, here's the fine and here's the criminal penalty for breaking the law. They abided by that, paid the fine, paid their criminal penalty. Why should there be an excess to it?
There wasn't a hearing on where the money came from. The
No.
hearing was,
Yeah, the hearing is specifically for where the money came from. We have to prove with the preponderance of the evidence that the money came from that enterprise.
That is not the same as beyond a reasonable doubt. And preponderance of evidence presumes guilt, and you have to prove innocence. Beyond a reasonable doubt.
the Land Rover was taken from this dude because they presumed that he bought it with drug money.
Mhm.
But he got it as an inheritance from his dad's
Or
life
it was
insurance.
used in the commission,
So-
or it was used in the commission of that crime.
No,
So-
that's straightforward. Then it can be seized on a criminal level. This is not, that's out of this ruling, and the state allows that on the criminal level. If it's used in the preponderance of a crime, it can be seized, unless it's part of a homestead. The North Dakota law, says that. But so that,
But
Doesn't matter.
oftentimes a person pleads guilty with the knowledge that they can fight that vehicles, they're not seized in the criminal portion of it. They just aren't. There may be a portion of the plea agreement that person allows.
just because we don't like the law doesn't mean we get to sidestep it.
Well, we're not sidestepping the law.
Sure we are. The Supreme Court says we're sidestepping it. This is over and above what the law allowed. And that's why they stepped on it. Over and above, excessive fines. That's what the Eighth Amendment's about.
But
It guards against that.
even if you're still even if it's not over in excess of the fines, if we do a civil asset forfeiture, you're still arguing against it, and I don't think it's appropriate because, like I said, if a person pleads guilty and has admitted or doesn't contest it, I don't understand how that's sidestepping the law.
Because they don't have the ability to request counsel in a civil we don't have to provide counsel in a civil action. So if they can't pay for their lawyer in this civil forfeiture, it's not like a criminal case where we give them a lawyer. The civil forfeiture, we don't give them a lawyer. They're on their own, they have to come up with the money to do it. It took it out of the criminal realm where they have protection under the Constitution and put it into the civil realm where they don't. And that's not correct.
So, but your reasoning is condoning criminal activity.
No, it's not. Don't start that. It is not.
it would be,
Jamie,
John.
that's if you've heard rather 100 guilty men go free than one innocent man convicted.
Absolutely.
That's what this is about.
But not allowing civil asset forfeiture would condone criminal enterprises that that profit and use the fines, the small monetary fines, as a risk of doing business.
We got along for 225 years without doing it. I think we're gonna be fine. Anything else? Future business?
I have mailboxes and time clocks. Anything else?
What budget hearing is when? October
4th?
4th? Friday?
Yep.
So you'll have your regular meeting and then the hearing will be at
That's at
6.
6.
6, yep.
When's our next meeting?
September 20th.
Movie adjourned.
Been moved by Sean, and we adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by John. Samantha was about ready to say. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned at 3:50 p.m. Next meeting will be in this room at 2:30 p.m. on September 20th.